Is the Starlink Mini really the best kept secret for Wi-Fi on the go? Today we are going to be putting this to the ultimate test while driving through a hurricane in the middle of pretty extreme weather and while our kids are streaming and gaming to find out if it gives you the speed and reliability that you need. So we just unboxed this. This is the Starlink Mini. This is how it comes and there's not much to it. You have a 50-foot cable to be able to plug it into a power source. There is a mount if you want to mount it, but it comes right here with its own little like tilt. So you don't really even need this unless you want it as like a permanent fixture somewhere. And then the cable, you're just gonna go ahead and plug it in. Pretty basic. So we paid $600 for this Mini and it's really as minimalistic as it gets. There's no buttons, no logos on it, and it's roughly the size of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, just a little bit bigger. You can see not much to it. It's about 2.5 pounds, really light. You could definitely fit it into your backpack or purse. So I'm gonna get PJ to help me establish internet service. The service plan we got was $50 a month for 50 gigs of data, which by the way, works just about anywhere in the US on land and gives you in-motion use for up to 100 miles an hour. But the best part of Starlink Mini is just how simple it is to take out of the box, plug in, and be online within 5 minutes.
We're gonna scan the barcode, get the Starlink app. It wants to check for obstructions. You just say you're ready when you find an open area. You point your phone straight up and you see this animation of kind of taking all the sky scan, an estimated obstruction view, which for us, you can kind of see pretty good experience overall, a little bit on the west side, which is this right here, these trees. And you've got to keep in mind, the satellite doesn't just send a 90-degree signal up straight up. It does have kind of a 120-degree field. So the edges will be obstructed if you have any tall trees or tall buildings nearby. But you can see streaming is going to be good, browsing is going to be good. Video calls are also good, with online gaming being the only one that has some limited interruptions.
Pretty straightforward. It does give you the option to align Starlink, and this will just give you better connectivity. So you can see I can kind of turn it here and it's showing me, ooh, right there, looks good. Pro tip when you're going to set up your Starlink is that if you don't order it directly from Starlink's website and set up data at that time, you actually have to log into a computer before you unbox it and go to set it up somewhere before you bring it out into the middle of nowhere and try to set the whole thing up. So just a quick little pro tip. You might run into that issue like we did because we ordered from somewhere else. Hopefully you don't. Now Starlink doesn't publish any specific speed ratings for the Mini because it varies so much based on your location, the time of day, and your service plan. But most people report download speeds as low as 25 megabits per second and up to 220 megabits per second, with the majority experiencing over 100 megabits per second.
So you can see it boost up 115, 120. Let's see where it settles. 26 milliseconds of latency, so low latency. This is pretty incredible speeds.
All right, but, big but, there's a storm, actually a hurricane that's about to roll in, and it's gonna start pouring here in a second. So we're gonna see how that will affect it. Do you wanna give us the forecast?
Yeah, we'll pull up the radar here. The storms are coming in, some severe weather, winds of 40 to maybe 60 miles an hour, with tropical storm features coming through.
I feel like you need to put on a suit and tie for that one.
A little farther towards the south, but kind of to show you how things have played out here. This should be waterproof. We should be good to go when it comes to the satellite. Water resistant is our battery pack. So that's a 50-foot cable. In a real life scenario, you'd have that in a tent or in a covered area. You can get this pretty far away from the actual satellite itself, but the satellite can take on plenty of water and be okay in this scenario.
Ta-da! Happy Halloween! So we are about 150 feet away at our house, and how's it looking?
Here's a speed test. Looks even slightly better at this moment for that satellite.
Keep going. Keep walking. We're gonna walk through the house.
Should we run more tests inside the house?
Yeah. All right, we're in the house in the living room. Now what are we getting?
Look, we're between walls now. We've dropped down to about 7 or 8 megabits a second. So significant drop about 200 feet away. Oh, speed test failed. I think we're about 250 feet away, a house between us, and not gonna have connectivity anymore. So I think 150 feet or so is the most you wanna be. Walking around to the side, connectivity kicking back in, speed's not quite there yet.
When we don't have any houses between us.
Oh, look, here we come. So we're still about 175 feet away, but it seems like that direct contact with the satellite receiver itself is the bigger deal, not necessarily
and the
just
satellite is like right over there.
Yep, it's in that field. Now we're back about 150 feet away, but we had about 22 megabits a second at 175 feet away. But the question is, how is it going to play out when you're out in different environments on the road?
And driving around in motion. I want to show you guys how I'm going to be powering this up. We have two portable power stations from EcoFlow. We have the larger one. This is the Delta 3 Plus, and the smaller one is the River 3. And huge shout out to EcoFlow for sending both of these and sponsoring today's video. The larger one over here is the Delta 3 Plus, and this one has over 1,000 watt hours of energy and 1,800 watt output. So you can use this one as a home backup or for your RV or anywhere where you need that maximum output. It has Extreme Tech, which is a fancy way of saying the world's fastest charging portable power station, where a 30-minute charge can provide enough backup power for a refrigerator for at least 5 hours, and you can charge it using a wall socket, solar panels, car charger, or a generator. It also has other innovations like X Boost, which can give you up to 2,600 watts and surge up to 3,600 watts. It's ultra silent with less than 30 decibels of sound below a 600 watt load, which is equivalent to a quiet library, making it perfect for 24/7 operation without disrupting anyone. It's also the perfect backup for critical devices like Wi-Fi routers or security cameras because it has a built-in power switchover for uninterrupted power in about 10 milliseconds. You can also get smart energy management via the app and get storm warnings, UPS power outage alerts, and time of use, when you can manually enter the time and electricity cost, and it will automatically calculate the cost savings and charging discharging times. Now this is the River 3, and it has the same X-Core 3.0 tech as the Delta Pro 3. To nerd out for a second, they've used gallium nitrate as a semiconductor to really shrink things down. It's only 7 pounds and it's super compact. So it has this really great flat design, and right on front we have two USB-A's, we have a USB-C with 100 watts. Over here we have two AC ports, and then we have a 300 watt car port over here, and you can crank this all the way up to 600 watts with X Boost if you need something more powerful. And because of that gallium nitrate, you get 2 times the runtime and networking time, and it's super fast. It charges from 0 to 100 in less than an hour. And if you decide to go off-grid somewhere, you can also get a 45 watt portable solar panel that will actually fold up to about the size of a laptop. What's crazy is this tiny thing can output enough power for critical appliances like a small fridge, and you can actually plug this into your regular AC wall outlet, plug that tiny fridge into it, and if the power goes out, it will auto switch in less than 20 milliseconds, and it's ultra quiet just like the other one. Plus, both of these are fireproof, waterproof, and drop resistant. To get yours, check out the link down below and be sure to use my code to get an extra 5% off. Let's get back to the video. We're testing to see how many things we can have. We're gonna get some YouTube going. Liam has his Switch and his iPad. We're all gonna log into the Starlink Wi-Fi, and then we're gonna run a speed test.
Computer online and an iPad online. Kim is out there on a Zoom call. No, she's not going potty.
And then we'll try to do the same thing inside of our car while it's in motion.
Let's see what the speed looks like. 147 megabits a second. That is pretty impressive. We've got multiple streaming devices and a streaming video over there as well.
All right, we're out here in the middle of pretty extreme weather. Right now we're gonna do a speed test.
The trees are starting to bend over
Oh my
here.
gosh, if I don't blow away here. All right.
Yeah, it says obstructed.
It says obstructed,
But
but
let's see if we can run a speed
let's
test.
see if I can still get it going.
Oh yeah, significantly slower, 22 megabits a second versus up to almost 100 earlier, I think.
Yeah, which isn't too surprising. Like if you have a satellite on your house, a lot of times like the Wi-Fi slows down during storms. Sometimes like you lose power for a second. All that impacts, you know, just normal Wi-Fi. So having this little device, I'm not too surprised that it would be impacted by it. So the big difference between the mini versus the standard is that the standard is about twice the size and half the price. It comes in right around $300, but it also has a beefier power supply and more surface area on it, so it can push past the bad weather and get more connectivity when it comes to snow and rain in those areas, where this one still struggles a little bit in bad weather. But the standard one doesn't come with a mobile option, so you can't take it with you on the go and set it up at new locations like you can with the mini. All right, we've loaded up the car with our whole family plus our au pair. We're all going to be logging on to the Starlink. Plus, we're going to be going up into the mountains where there's little connectivity and testing it out up there. Let's do this. So we have Starlink going right now inside of our Model X, right in the front windshield. We're going to go ahead and do a speed test. Here we go. So right now we're in an open parking lot. It's pretty good, but we're all gonna log on right now and see what happens to our speed when we have, I don't know, 5 people using the Wi-Fi service. Okay, Ready, team? Let's do it. Everyone's gonna log on here. So all 5 of us are logged in. We're running another speed test right now. So it's definitely dropped about 3 times slower than it was with 5 people logged in. And we're gonna see what happens in motion next.
Look, it wants me to turn this, and as I turn it, it finds alignment better. You see that?
But is any of that gonna matter when we're in motion?
That's the problem, right? It seems like as the car moves around, the triangulation, see, once again, it's starting to change and wants it to rotate one more time. So I'm not sure how mobile this really becomes.
Now for us, we've got kids, we do lots of road trips, and the kids constantly connect to our phone hotspot, and it doesn't take long to max out our unlimited data, slowing down speeds for the rest of the month. So with 6 people on board, we had 6 devices connected to the Mini.
So we get constant offline, online, obstruction, as you kind of saw there. There's back online again. And, you know, it's not a perfect scenario when you're driving down the road.
We're not even moving right now. Let's actually like show it moving. We're just like barely moving.
I know. The obstructions, this is a live view of the obstructions with generally really no obstructions. It says clear view, but clearly it's constantly looking for a better signal. You can run a speed test while we're online right now. When it works, it's decent while in motion, about 40, 50 megabits a second. All right, we've got 2 phones. This one is connected to Starlink Mini. This one is connected to 5G Plus. Let's run this test. Looks like Starlink Mini is falling behind 5G Plus by a long shot right now on the highway. 400 megabits a second to 67, 500 megabits a second, unbelievable. So there you have it. You're better off with your phone.
In areas that actually have connectivity and service. Now let's take it up in the mountains where there's no service and see what happens. Here's what I think Starlink is good for. Maybe we just have Liam log into it so he doesn't steal all my data.
Reserve it for the most data-hungry child?
Yes, because everybody else has a phone and has Wi-Fi. Yeah. But Liam doesn't. He has an iPad that doesn't have connectivity. Now, Starlink began 10 years ago and now has over 2/3 of all Earth satellites, and with connectivity for over 99.6% of all U.S. households, is the highest coverage percentage of any internet provider in the U.S. So we've been testing this for about a week now. What do you think?
I like it overall. I think it's definitely worth it, but I don't know if it's worth it if you're considering it as a road trip warrior. Because for us and our family, always tethering into our devices, using our mobile data, and making that run out really quickly and slow down. My thought was if we have something like this, they can tap into it and use it, and they definitely were able to do that. But there's just so many moments where both your 5G goes out and then also the Wi-Fi goes out that I'm like, I don't really want to tell myself this is a mobile unit. It's mobile in the sense that you can take it with you, set it up, get good high-speed Wi-Fi anywhere you go, but not necessarily an in-car sort of a setup. But again, we were in the mountains, it was windy mountain roads, it was raining, tall trees, all of these things we know obstruct efficiency of the satellite dish. So that's something to keep in mind.
I think like just driving around town, your phone is going to work better. Just using like your natural
5G.
The natural 5G that you have on your phone is going to work better. But for me, when I drive around with Liam, who doesn't have a phone yet, and he's always wanting to tether my internet, and then I get slow data, for that, it's really nice to be able to have a Wi-Fi hotspot.
And if you were to pull over on the side of the road, you'll get 120, 150 megabits a second almost anywhere on the highway, at any remote location, really on land. That's no problem at all. It's just a matter of moving around and trying to use it in the car, which it says it's usable for up to 100 miles an hour. We didn't drive that fast to test it, but I know that it definitely works. But it was constantly in and out of service when it was working.
But he didn't complain that much. He actually he said it worked great for him.
Hour-and-a-half drive, just got to our destination. Liam, were you able to game the entire time?
Yeah.
All right. And did it interrupt at all or work the whole time?
It didn't. It interrupted like half of the time because the internet stayed good most of the time.
Okay. Internet worked half the time, but worked most of the time. You heard it here.
For us, we're used to a little bit faster speeds.
Yeah.
But for him, it was fine. And I love that it's mobile. When we go up into the mountain and there are areas that have zero connectivity, we have that option.
We're on LTE, couple bars in the mountains. We're gonna try it. Here we go. We are, about 1 megabit a second. Let's run one more test with Starlink. Again, tons of trees, tons of rain, and look at that. The speed's really all over the place, but bottom line is that it does seem to be much faster when you're in the middle of nowhere. You are relying on LTE versus Starlink on the move. And you got to keep in mind too, if you're out in the Mojave Desert, maybe it's different. You're in the clear, open desert. You have a lot better view of the sky, no tall trees, no mountains directly next to you maybe. That gives you a better option of getting high-speed internet. So in our scenario, it was pretty extreme and the weather wasn't cooperating. So you take those out of the mix, you're probably better off with a Starlink Mini having as an internet option.
Now, also what's cool is that we pay $50 a month, but you can stop and start that. So if you know that you're gonna go camping, you go ahead and you add it on for the month, but then maybe keep it as like a backup. You don't use it all the time. You don't have to pay that $50 every month.
That's true, and I know people are going to say you're camping, you should be disconnected. That's your only time to disconnect. But I mean, that's obviously besides the point.
What if we're working? All right,
we're going to call it work. That's funny. Our Landon does editing for his YouTube channel. He's like, "Mom, I need extra time. Dad, I need extra time to edit. I'm working." Right now, a lot of newer phones have satellite SOS on there. You can text now via iPhone 16. As well, even if you don't have connectivity using satellites. But prior to that, having something the size of a piece of paper, as you were saying, go into your backpack and then carry it on with you onto a mountainside. And an emergency happens, you can essentially FaceTime anyone, anywhere. It works, and it works again almost anywhere. It's just that it doesn't work great when you're constantly in motion in a car, if that's what you're trying to get it for.
Yeah. That's true. We'll have to test it next on a boat. We'll have to pay a little bit extra for that one.
I think it's pretty affordable. You're getting 50 gigabytes of data for $50 a month. You can go up to unlimited amounts of data for $165 a month. I think they just increased that. It was $150. It's now $165. That's all on the Roam kind of mobility access. And then you go over open waters, it goes up to $250 a month, I think. By the way, you can actually get access on the water for 12 nautical miles offshore. So you could technically take it out on a boat, on the weekend or something and go out there and go fishing and be completely okay. It's just that you can't go on a cruise, for example, unless you pay more, up to $250 a month.
So do you think that Starlink is at the point right now where people can ditch like their internet service like AT&T and go all in on Starlink?
I know, it's like, is it the Netflix equivalent of cutting your cable or YouTube TV and being able to utilize that? I don't know if it's necessarily designed or its intention is to replace fiber or cable, and it's definitely not fast enough. I mean, at times it can be pretty fast on a land.
With the Mini.
Yes. Yeah, the land gets you definitely better reliability. I think its intent for right now is just kind of serving underserved areas in remote regions. I don't think it's trying to replace it, but there are people that are utilizing it because it is a lot more simple than signing up these 12-month contracts with AT&T or what have you. So I don't think right now it is. If you're in the middle of nowhere and you're not getting great internet as it is from your provider, if you don't have 1 gig of fiber to work with, then yeah, this would be great.
What about cost-wise? How much do we pay right now for AT&T? We have AT&T. How much do we pay?
We're about $150 maybe a month or something like that. But that bundles different services, so it's about the same. AT&T says 1 gig, but because we're wireless and not actually plugged into the wall, we're getting about 300 to 400 megabytes.
Are you comparing this though to the standard Starlink or to the Starlink Mini? If we were going to use it for our house, you probably would not want to look at the Mini. You would want the standard. Yeah, the standard definitely gives you better speeds. It definitely gives you better connectivity through the elements, as we kind of discovered through the research of this video. 3,200 square feet is the coverage you get on that larger standard one that's mounted permanently outside your home, whereas the Mini gets you about 1,200 square foot of coverage, so almost 3 times less coverage area. And then of course, as soon as it starts raining, you're losing the strength of your signal pretty quickly on the Mini, whereas you have far more power to boost through the elements when it comes to those larger ones. So the speeds are pretty similar, unless you're hardwired into your internet connection, then you're probably better off with fiber. If you're not hardwired, your speeds are going to be pretty similar. Yeah. If any of you guys have ditched conventional Wi-Fi internet and gone all in on Starlink, let us know down in the comments below. I'm curious what you guys have to say and what kinds of speeds you're getting. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out the links in the description below and sign up for our weekly newsletter to get exclusive content and the latest in EV news delivered right to your inbox.